move to Assembly Member Wilson's question around the IRGC.
Chair, can I thank the member for his question? As an integral part of the Iranian regime, the IRGC have been implicated in appalling conduct in Iran, including mass killings of unarmed protesters, torture, sexual violence, and extrajudicial killings. The IRGC's activity has not been confined to Iran. In Syria, they supported the brutal Assad regime and are alleged to have participated in mass killings. They also support the terrorist organisations Hamas and Hezbollah. In Europe, the IRGC is thought to have operated a mixed model, combining direct state-led operations with state-sponsored hostile activity. They're accused of increasingly hiring criminal networks to target dissidents, journalists and Jewish communities. London and the UK has not been immune to this threat. In October last year, MI5 stated that the security services and the police had responded to over 20 potentially lethal plots. These included surveillance, kidnapping and assassination. I totally condemn this activity and put my full support behind the police and security services who work tirelessly to counter this threat. Due to their illegal activity, several countries and the EU have banned the IRGC. My understanding is that the UK position on prescribing the IRGC remains under the review of the Home Secretary and is complicated by the fact that the IRGC is a state-backed entity. The UK does, however, already maintain sanctions over 450 Iranian individuals and entities covering human rights abuses and state threats, including sanctioning the IRGC in its entirety. The UK can utilise the National Security Act 2023 to address threats from hostile state actors, including the IRGC. Significant recent arrests relating to the Iranian regime have been made, including suspected espionage operations, surveillance of the Jewish community and threats to life. The Iranian regime has also been accused of using online campaigns to sow division and hatred in communities. That is completely at odds with what London and the UK is, and that's why I'll continue to deliver programmes that bring communities together and strengthen communities against hate. However, we can't rely solely on prevention and the pursuit of hostile state actors and must be prepared for major incidents and threats. That's why I asked Lord Toby Harris to commission 2 reviews into London's preparedness for major incidents, and that's why this city is better prepared and protected than ever before, although we're not complacent. Finally, I want to reassure the Assembly that my team and I remain in close contact with counter-terrorism policing in London, including through regular meetings with the police and the London Contest Board.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good afternoon. I was expecting to be saying good morning, but obviously we haven't quite got as far on the agenda as we might have done. But no, I really welcome those comments, and in particular highlighting that this organisation, we know about its activity in Iran, its support for and sponsoring of terrorist groups elsewhere in the Middle East, and importantly for our concerns, its activity in Europe and London in particular. And you referenced, quite rightly, the Director General of MI5, Sir Ken McCallum's comments in October that the MI5 had been monitoring and tracking over 20 plots to kidnap, assassinate, cause all sorts of mayhem and carnage on London streets, and that should terrify all of us. There are other connections as well that I think need to be thought of in the round. We have the Islamic Republic of Iran school in Maida Vale, a school which has been rated inadequate by Ofsted since 2016, where children have been filmed promoting extremist and militaristic and anti-Semitic propaganda, including the Hello Commander song, an IRGC anthem that glorifies the massacre of Jews. So churning out that next generation of hate, and that's something that's happening here in London and really must not continue to happen. Also, we've seen Lord Walney's report looking at the very murky links between the Iranian regime and UK-based so-called charities, whether that's an overlap in personnel or ideological alignment or the wider security context. Now, so with all that in mind, are you sharing my view that this is currently the single biggest threat that affects Londoners on a daily basis from that angle?
Chair, can I thank him for his question and the intent behind it, which we both agree with in terms of danger to our city. I'm afraid the bad news is there are other hostile state actors who operate in London. I can't share more than what's in the public domain in relation to Russia, in relation to China. So when he says, is this the most dangerous threat, they're all dangerous, and there are others as well. They're also, I'm afraid, what's called, inverted commas, lone wolf operatives who are, inverted commas, inspired by the actions of these. So I'm concerned about the issues he's raised. I want to take away the point he's raised in relation to children. I wasn't aware of that, because we do lots of work in relation to supporting young people So can I take that away as well in terms of the school he's mentioned and what more we can do in relation to whether it's Ofsted or the council or whatever? I just wasn't aware of that.
Appreciate that as well. So as you're no doubt aware, at the last plenary meeting of this Assembly, we passed a motion unanimously, including support from all political groups, to ask you and the Chair to write to the Government and urge immediate prescription of the IRGC. Is that something that you will be looking to do?
I always take seriously the resolutions of the Assembly. Can I take that away? I've not had a chance to see it. Can I take that away? I mean, just to let him know, the United States have prescribed IRGC. The European Union have prescribed the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. And so let me take that away because I've just not seen the motion. And so I'm more than happy to write to the Government when the Assembly, on a cross-party basis, agrees on an issue. And this is clearly of such importance in terms of us coming together as an Assembly. And I think the symbolism of the Mayor and the Assembly agreeing on something is very important. But can I see the details before I agree to do so?
Thank you. I appreciate that as well. And just, I guess, to finish then, you've mentioned that, the US, and many other governments, Australia, Argentina, and our good friends in the European Union have taken that step. And it does stagger me that we still have kind of indecision from national government. And I know when you urged people to support Labour in the general election last year, you wanted to work hand in glove with the Labour government. This is exactly an opportunity where we can do this, to put Londoners' safety first. And I just hope that by doing that, we can encourage the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, whoever needs to be involved in this, to stop trying to capitulate to these thugs and actually start trying confronting them. So I welcome that in principle support, and let's see where we go from there.
I would just say, Chair, on issues of security, the Conservative government were fantastic working with me as well. So I think we should make this into a party political issue. I mean, it really is a cross-party endeavour when it comes to national security. I just remind the colleague that the issue of prescribing a group, there's a formal legal process. The Home Secretary looks at the evidence and so forth, and there's actually an example of a case where a group prescribed has challenged that in the court. So it's not as straightforward as me saying to the Home Secretary, please prescribe them. There's a process to go through, but I'll look at the motion passed, and I'm more than happy to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're moving on to the question in the name of Assembly Member Desai, community cohesion during international volatility.
I thank the member for his question. He's probably the only person that didn't come in on question one. So can I thank you for that as well. I'm deeply concerned by the deadly conflict engulfing the Middle East. I want to see an end to this violence as soon as possible, with de-escalation and a return to diplomacy. In my view, now is the time for cool heads to prevail to prevent the conflict spiralling further. Many Londoners will be watching the worsening situation across the Middle East with deep concerns for friends, family and loved ones who are in the region. In London, the Met Police have responded to these events by taking action to protect London's communities, manage public disorder and counter potential state-backed threats. The Met have implemented a series of heightened security measures, including stepping up patrols around key sites in our city, as well as in the most affected communities. They facilitated protest activity and acted when this has crossed into criminality. And they continue to conduct operations to root out hostile state activity, with recent arrests made in this respect. Whilst people have strong views on events in the Middle East, we cannot allow events thousands of miles away to be used as an excuse to turn on each other in London, a city where diverse communities live together. I urge all Londoners to continue to look out for each other, particularly during times of crisis and tension. My Deputy Mayor for Communities and Social Justice is currently convening a series of roundtables with faith and community groups across London. In recent months, discussions have been held with Sikh, Jewish and Muslim communities. I'll also continue to do my bit to counter hateful sentiment by continuing record equaling funding for my Shared Endeavour Fund. This programme delivers work that strengthens communities against extremism, encourages more Londoners to stand up to hate and safeguards Londoners at risk of radicalisation and stops the spread of hateful ideologies. I remain in close contact with the Met and other key partners to help London's communities feel safe and protected during this challenging time.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in terms of the NIC grant, the National and International Capital City grant, where are we in terms of negotiations with the Home Office to make sure that London is the Met is properly funded?
So can I thank him? He raises this regularly because it's so important to our cities. So we've been underfunded in terms of the National and International Capital Cities grant, a recognition that London needs over and above other police force around the country. So last year we were successful in securing £63 million of additional funds. That's a 34% increase. But we're still woefully underfunded in the tune of £138 million a year over 10 years, which is the amount of underfunding. That's £1.4 billion. We're lobbying the Home Office. The Commissioner's lobbying the Home Office and Number 10 to explain the importance of this. And by the way, our needs are growing more rather than receding, so it's really important we get some more support.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, in terms of handheld facial recognition devices, can you give an insight into how how this will be used during the mass trial period? And how do you balance utilizing new technologies whilst preserving individual rights?
Yeah, so can I thank you for his question? So just to reassure him, the Met Police are undertaking a 6-month pilot, it is a pilot, of operator-initiated facial recognition, OIFR. 100 officers are involved in this pilot, 100. There's a limited number of teams using it, and it's going to begin, the pilot will begin around mid-May. Just to reassure him and to reassure Londoners, officers will use the technology on their mobile handsets to help identify only those individuals who are engaging with the police, and only where the person refuses or is unable to provide details, is suspected of providing false details, or when entering custody at a police station. Then what happens is the device compares the individual's biometrics with custody images held lawfully to see whether there's a match between somebody who's stopped by the police and somebody who's wanted. We're making sure that the London Police and Ethics Panel and MOPEC are also working with the police in relation to making sure that any concerns are addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Assembly Member Garbett.
Mr. Mayor, were you concerned that the Biometrics Commissioner wasn't consulted on this, that the Met Commissioner didn't consult the Biometrics Commissioner about the use of IOFR?
I wasn't aware of that, but I can take that away.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Clark, Creative Industries and Youth Unemployment.
Sorry, bear with me, sorry. Thank you. Can I thank you for her question? London's creative industries entertain, educate and inspire people all over the world. We are leading global exporters of film, TV, gaming, music, marketing, fashion and architecture, rivaling Hollywood as a global production centre. Aside from the joy it brings, the sector is worth £64 billion to London's economy, accounting for around 1 in 7 jobs in the capital. London is bursting with creative young people, and connecting this talent to our creative industries is imperative. Collaboration with industry is essential. That's why I'm working with employers like the National Theatre and Frame Store in the creative sector to boost economic growth and help influence London's skills systems to get more Londoners into jobs in this sector. We're also investing in London's creative industries to open up genuine opportunities for young people across the capital. I've committed £22.1 million to skills boot camps and the Adult Skills Fund, alongside our Creative Enterprise Zones programme to deliver training, mentoring and business support for emerging creatives. We've also invested more than £600 million in East Bank, the largest cultural and education project of its kind, which has already engaged 40,000 young people, helping to ensure London remains a global leader in culture, innovation and opportunity. I want every Londoner to have the opportunity to support them to fulfil their potential, helping them overcome barriers, access skills and training and access good quality jobs. And that's all working with the government through the Get to Britain Working Trailblazer to deliver London's Youth Guarantee.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I'm sure you'll recall our visit when you opened the studio at Barnet Southgate College, which was directly showing what investment can do in the creative industries for our young people. And again, in Brent Cross Town, also in Barnet, we have the Troubadour Studios, which is taking on young apprentices and also giving young people work experience in that industry. So a few good opportunities there, but obviously with 1 in 7 jobs in this industry, we need to keep those doors open to our young people. How is the trial of the Youth Guarantee in London supporting our young Londoners?
Well, first, I remember that visit very well to Barnet Southgate College. I got to meet one of my heroes, Pete Waterman, Stockgate and Waterman. I'm of that vintage. He was there with Lord Levy. I was also pleased to meet the young people and the teachers as well. Look, this is a really important initiative we're doing in relation to these trailblazers. We're also working on a youth guarantee, and as I mentioned to Lord Bailey, work experience is really important as well. A lot of young people haven't got the networks or even the aspiration and ambition. They could be really skilled. As we're trying to open those up in terms of not just work experience, mentorship, but also the skills they need to get the jobs. One of the things that I think we wouldn't forgive ourselves for is if we created these great jobs, but Londoners didn't have access to the great jobs. And that's really important to give them access to those jobs. That's why the trailblazers are so important. And I commend the work of Pat McFadden and Alan Milburn, who really seized of the importance of focusing on younger people as well. Because if you can, that's the foundations. If your first job, if you can get a job as soon as you can, that's the foundations for being productive and enjoying life for the rest of your life because you're working, right?
Absolutely. And finally, we all know that across the country that young people are struggling to find work when they leave education. What advice would you give young people who are not in work or training to get the support that they deserve?
I'm really concerned about the issue of young people who aren't in education, employment or training. It's an issue because all the evidence suggests is if the first time you can get a job, you don't get a job, you may not be as productive as you otherwise could be. So we've got to address it at source in terms of why that's happening. Now, the good news is there are fewer economically inactive people in London, and there are more people looking for work. That's a good thing. And we've got to make sure, and the other good thing is we know jobs are being created in London. So we've got to match up younger people with the jobs being created, and that's where skills comes in, given the skills for the jobs being created. The short point I'd make to young people is, this is a city where you can fulfil your potential as long as there's a helping hand. There is no helping hand in terms of some of the schemes I've announced, and literally there is no reason why you can't fulfil your potential with the right support. We're going to give that support going forward. And that's why the youth guarantee we're working on is so important. We should be guaranteeing young people, if you put in the graft, there'll be a good job for you, and we'll help you skill up for that job. And by the way, the point I made earlier on is not only does it bring joy to the individual, self-esteem and empowerment, it's great for society if people are productive and contributing. And it means that, frankly speaking, it's great for them, their families, their well-being, but also the tax revenues means we can provide better public services for everyone else.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your work on that. I know that London shouldn't be a city just for owner-occupiers, as you were saying before. It's a great city for everyone of all ages to live in. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Can we move then on to the question in the name of Assembly Member Prince, Good Samaritan clause?
Can I thank the member for his question? Good afternoon. The safety and security of everyone using London's transport network is vital. That includes the millions of Londoners who use the bus network as well as bus drivers themselves. Bus services in London as well as the DLR, London Overground and Elizabeth Line are delivered by private operators under contract to Transport for London. This means that operational matters, including staffing and employment decisions within individual companies, sit with those operators. That said, I fully recognise and understand the strength of feeling behind this campaign and the ordeal Mark Hayher has gone through. London's bus drivers are essential to the operation of our transport network. They carry significant responsibility every day to keep London moving and to keep customers safe, often in very challenging circumstances, and their contribution is valued enormously. However, as I'm sure the member would agree, legal employment protections are best set at a national level. Frameworks such as the Employment Rights Act and Equality Act already provide important protections, and if further safeguards are needed, these are most effectively delivered through national legislation. If government brings forward proposals, TfL and I will work with them to understand the implications for London's transport operators and how any changes could be implemented effectively. In the meantime, we're taking action to better support and protect all transport workers. TfL provides clear guidance and training and works closely with operators and trade unions to promote a culture where staff can act safely and confidently. But there's more to do. Earlier this month, I convened an urgent GLA-TfL work-related violence and aggression summit with TfL, the police, trade union, workers and contracted partners to develop new and collaborative approaches to improve frontline staff safety. Keeping customers safe is also central to our work. TfL works closely with the police and operators to keep the network safe and respond quickly to incidents. This partnership helps prevent crime, reassure passengers and support victims. On buses, this includes extensive CCTV coverage and 24/7 access to TfL's control room where the Met Police Service is based. Drivers can request an immediate police response whenever a crime is committed or suspected. While we continue to press for wider change where needed, I remain committed to doing everything possible within London's powers to ensure that transport workers are supported, respected and kept safe at work.
You quoted the law Mr. Mayor. Under the Criminal Law Act of 1967, Mr. Hager has not committed any crime, and yet he's still without a job. Do you think that's fair, Mr. Mayor, that he was sacked whilst actually doing something that we should all admire, actually?
We all do admire him. I think there's a separate issue about what the employer Metroline did, which was backed up by the Employment Tribunal. I've not seen I wasn't there for the Employment Tribunal case, but all of us know that if we were a victim of crime, we'd want a bus driver like Mr. Hager to be there to support us during those difficult times. I simply can't go behind, because I've not seen the decision-making process. I've in the past not commented on court cases because it's invidious going behind the decision of the tribunal. I'm not sure whether Mr. Hager has appealed to the Employment Appeal Tribunal and so forth, but, you know, for those of us who weren't there, it does surprise us, both the decision of Metroline and also the tribunal, but I just don't know. I wasn't at the tribunal.
So, yeah, Mark is actually in the Mark is actually in the audience. Apparently there is no cause for appeal. I'm being reliably informed. You know, do you not think, Mr. Mayor, that in some way you should lobby on Mark's behalf? Do you not feel that you know, you're letting Mark down and letting Londoners down, really, by not taking more of an interest in this? I mean, you are a fair mayor in many instances. You believe in justice. I believe that. Do you not think there's some way that you should intervene in this?
I don't want to talk about Mr. Hager individually, but just think about the principle in terms of the people employed by the DLR, by London Overground, by Elizabeth Line, by the individual bus operators. There's a number in London. If either the Commissioner or myself was to get involved in every dispute between an individual and the operator...
You could give guidance, couldn't you, saying that, you know, if we've got heroes, they shouldn't be punished, shouldn't you? I mean...
Well, the member says it's not hard. I mean, I think it's a slippery slope, somebody getting involved in issues of employment dispute between a contractor and an employee, or between an employment tribunal.
It's about someone who did a heroic act and is being punished for it. That's the issue, isn't it?
And between an employment tribunal and their claimant and applicant. And so, you know, I've already said, in relation to my recognition of the heroism of Mr. Hager, not only have I said this, the victim has said this in terms of her gratitude towards the step he took. It's for Metroline and the Employment Tribunal to explain the decisions they took. But it's really important that contractors know the obligations there are upon them. And so whether it's a bus operator, the DLR, the Overground or the Elizabeth Line, the same principles must apply.
Sorry, is that... thank you very much for pointing that out to me. Can I ask the Assembly to agree to suspending Standing Orders 2.9b in order to allow the remaining business on the agenda to be completed? Okay, with Assembly Member Prince now out of time, we now move to the next question, which is in my name. I need to... Oh, sorry, Assembly Member Baker, you did indicate, and in my haste to move on, I forgot you. Over the floor is yours.
How could you forget me, Chair? I'm never going to get over this. I'm going to... apologies. So, afternoon, Mr. Window. Yeah. I just wanted to come in on a couple of issues that have just been discussed. Firstly, I think Assembly Member Prince is raising some really important questions, but we do need to be careful. I hope you agree not to seek to have a situation where criminal law and employment law is the same thing, because there are many reasons, unfortunately, that people may lose a job without committing a crime. But obviously there was a failure of common sense from Metroline here, an absolute failure of common sense to go, what's happened here, and is this really a sensible thing to end up that Mark here lost his job? So I'd like to ask you that, but also whether you agree with me on that, and also just, you mentioned the Violence at Work Summit. which I attended, that TfL did. I thought it was a really good event and heard from lots of workers and trade union representatives and engaging with the employers. One thing that specifically had come out of the Transport Committee's work on this and is the request for a specific offence, legal offence for violence against transport workers, which I think would really highlight some of the pressure that our transport workers are under and make it clear that that behaviour is not acceptable. I wonder whether you also support that call.
Can I thank her for not just the work she does in the committee, but attending the summit as well. The other members are present as well at the summit. And she'll have heard the powerful testimony from our 3 transport workers in terms of, one of them was a bus driver, in terms of the impact of abuse and violence towards them, the long lingering impact of abuse and violence towards them, and it affects the family as well. I still, 45 years on, remember the trauma of my family when my dad was a victim of violence as a bus driver. I think employers should use common sense. I hope they always did, in terms of, I kind of rely upon what I've read in the media about Mr. Hayer's case. And, I made this point genuinely. If any of my loved ones was on the bus and a victim of crime, I don't want him to be driving the bus, right? It's just a fact. I'm not going to, it's just a fact. So I'm not sure what's going through. I just don't know what's going through Mr. Lyon's mind. I just don't know about the employment tribunal case. I just don't know about those 2 things. But what we should do as a consequence is make sure that we protect our bus drivers, we protect our frontline workers. Both the RMT General Secretary and myself pay tribute to somebody who lost their lives just for doing their job. Jorge Ortega, just for doing his job, he lost his life. And so it is important we give support to our transport workers, and we're going to do so. But she raises what I think is such a simple idea, and I've written to the government about this, so has the Commissioner. I was really pleased by the campaign that USDAW ran in relation to shop workers. So there is additional protection and additional sanctions for a judge if a shop worker is the victim of an injury. Why not a transport worker? They're on the front line doing important stuff, and it'll act as a deterrent, it'll act as a reassurance, but also make sure that the punishment fits the crime in terms of attacking a helpless transport worker doing their job. And so I'll carry on lobbying the government in relation to the right vehicle to bring in the law, because I think it's essential.
Thanks very much. Back to you, Chair.
Now comes to me. I need to go on the clock, and it's the question around measles. Mr. Mayor.
Rachel, I believe Ross has given up on me. Can I thank Member Fraser a question? I'm deeply concerned about the recent measles outbreak in North London and the levels of vaccination uptake in London more generally. London's response to current and emerging health risks, including the latest measles outbreak, is led by UKSHAW, the UK Health Security Agency, OHID, and the NHS and local authorities. These agencies are responding to the recent outbreak and help prevent future ones by encouraging families to check vaccination records, get registered with a GP, be aware of measles symptoms, in addition to setting up vaccination catch-up clinics. The GLA's Public Health Unit officers are in regular contact with partners and have kept me informed of the situation in North London. Measles is an awful illness, which can lead to serious health complications and, in some cases, tragically death. That's why I'm doing my part to support partner agencies, using my communications platforms to ensure London's families know that measles is fully preventable with 2 doses of MMRV vaccine, that the vaccine is entirely safe and free for children in the NHS, and is also never too late to catch up. Beyond reinforcing public health messages, we have also been working to put trusted information into the hands of schools and communities via partner organisations. This includes sharing measles and other childhood immunisation campaigns through the Healthy Early Years and Healthy Schools Network, and circulating UKSHAW resources to asylum hospitals and local authorities. It's also clear that information alone is not enough to tackle ongoing challenges around childhood vaccination uptake. Evidence shows that access to services and trusted voices are especially important in reaching communities, particularly those most exposed to health inequalities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, there are 2 tasks that it seems to me that needs to happen. One is dealing with the current outbreak here in London and bearing down on that. And the second is to get back on track about the elimination of this awful disease. And in doing that, and I recognise the lead status of UK HSA in leading that task. But I just have a feeling things are slightly not going in the way that should be happening. Now, I have limited advice. I'm a Londoner, and I should be, if I want to know where things are happening, I should be able to easily access it and follow it on. There has been a leaked internal report from the UK Health Security Agency that suggests the actual number of measles cases in London could be higher than the official reports. That's 340 suspected cases in terms of these areas, in terms of that. Now, in one of the boroughs, I think it's in Enfield, I'll be corrected, there are 34 cases, and it's even moving outside Enfield now into Haringey. Now, of course, looking at transport links, looking at patterns of that doesn't take too much to start thinking about. If you look at where our failure of the elimination programme has been, that we're going to have a real problem in East London along that Lee Valley corridor as it comes down into inner London. Now, Mr Mayor, we need sharp elbows here, and I recognise jurisdiction and the primacy of the lead agency. That's fine, and the professionals are right to lead this, and we are right to support them in these activities. And I don't doubt that we're doing everything that we can. And of course, the initial exchange at Health Committee of where it was helpfully suggested using the tube links, but it was the wrong target organisation. But we need a similar programme, as you suggested, with community leaders, religious leaders, both and others, along with a reinvigorated issue about education. We need to move wider, I believe, than the current outbreak areas. We need to get information into other education forums and people that can be pro, so we can hit that twin strategy of elimination issues. Would you not agree that it's time just to review where we are, take stock, and change and adapt tactics to drive this current outbreak down, but to use it as a push for the elimination campaign? Because quite frankly, I'm not sure of the elimination campaign as we go backwards and forwards, in and out, as being as successful. And I do believe, even though we're not the lead agency in tackling this, that we may have, along with London boroughs, some information that could help drive the health authority into a better action and targeted approach that keeps our young people safe. Sorry for being long-winded.
Chair, I understand the reasons why. So Chair, firstly, I'll ensure that the UK HSA, OHID, the NHS, the GLA's public health team and London councils are sent a copy of your words and the way you've said them so they can hear you loud and clear what you're saying. I do want to respond, though, to some of the issues raised, because I think we perform a public health function just as a Mayor's question time. Between the 1st of January this year and the 16th of March, London accounted for 62% of all laboratory-confirmed measles cases in England. That's 167 cases. Cases are concentrated in North London, with Enfield reporting the highest number, 87, followed by Haringey, 17, and Islington, 11. Just to let colleagues know, particularly those watching this, measles predominantly affects unvaccinated children under 10 in schools and nurseries. 69% of cases are in those places, though 25% of cases are in young people and adults aged 15 and over. And here's where your point is so important. London has the lowest vaccination uptake in England. Only 69% of 5-year-olds in London have received both doses of MMRV vaccine. And to give you an idea of comparison, it's 84% nationally. The World Health Organization has a target of 95% vaccinated. On the 26th of January this year, the WHO announced that the UK had lost its measles elimination status due to the high number of cases. And the final point I'll make, which is why your point is so important about public education, some boroughs face significant challenges. At the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, only 52% vaccination. Hampstead and Fulham, 60% vaccination. Westminster, 59% vaccination. So, Chair, I will take your comments and my response and make sure the bodies I've mentioned hear them loud and clear to see what more we need to do to stop the decline and see that going upwards in terms of vaccination of our young.
Well, thank you for that. Now, and of course, I think most all Assembly members around this table will be wanting to urge you to intervene as much as you can with those other agencies, not taking their responsibility or authority away from them, but urging about, is there other actions that we can be taking? Now, let's just turn to the other outbreak that we face. And even though we think we may be immune from that, we can only be immune from that by being aware of what's going on. So in terms of the addition, in addition of the measles outbreak we're facing, UK HSA has issued a national alert following the meningitis outbreak in Kent. Now, of course, we don't want to spread alarm and fear, but we do want a business-like approach in dealing with some of those issues. Now, in terms of your responsibilities in terms of resilience in London, are you confident that we have got sufficient supplies of antibiotics and vaccines for the meningitis if we are faced with a similar break as we would do in Kent, as Kent has faced?
So, Chair, thanks for your question. I think this is a good example of us learning the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we are in close contact with UCSHA in relation to meningitis as well. And if you'll indulge me, I do want to share with the public, not just the Assembly, where we are. So the UK Health Security Agency is continuing to investigate an unusual outbreak of meningitis disease, which has now been confirmed as being due to the Men-B strain. As of the 24th of March, there have been 22 notified cases, with 20 lab confirmed and two under investigation. Very sadly, 2 young people have lost their lives. UCSHA have advised there is currently no evidence of transmission outside of Kent. However, a single case of meningitis has been confirmed in London connected to this outbreak. All close contacts of this London case have been offered antibiotics and vaccinations, so I can give them that reassurance. And the UK Health Security Agency has advised that the risk to the wider population is low. People who are not directly connected to the Kent outbreak and who have not been contacted by the UK Health Security Agency do not need to take extra precautions or change their behaviour. This is a very targeted public health response focused on settings in Kent. There's no complacencies, Chair, but UCSHA have confirmed that the peak of the outbreak has passed. It is reassuring, I just say this as the Mayor, to see the speed and depth of the response from all agencies involved in the outbreak, including UCSHA, NHS, higher education settings, emergency services and local authorities, all of whom I understand work tirelessly to protect communities. We are likely, though, Chair, to see sporadic cases of meningitis in people that are not related to the outbreak in Kent, as we always do.
Mayor, finally, I wondered whether you could consider giving us a regular update. I don't need to say on a weekly basis, but a regular update. If you could combine the two with a report to Assembly members. Look, we've got some other business to do in this period of time, and I don't want to always increase work onto your team or in terms of GLA officers. But I do think it's important that as Assembly members that we are regularly cited of where things are going on this. If we could maybe ask for some of those briefings to come down and you write to each of the 25 Assembly members of just tell us where you think we are on current issues over the next couple of weeks.
Chair, I appreciate we're approaching the pre-election period. Why don't I undertake to write to the Assembly in a week's time in relation to both measles and meningitis, and then I'm guided by the Bureau of Leaders about what you want to do going forwards. I'm cognizant of your point about workloads and stuff, but maybe in a week's time things would be fine. But also, I don't see why on a regular basis every month or 2 months there can't be a report from the GLA Public Health Team about any particular issue that's of concern to them, if that helps.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's move on then to Assembly Member James Small-Edwards, land value capture powers to support London's infrastructure.
Can I thank the member for his question? In the 2025 budget, in addition to announcing the government support for the DLR extension to Thamesmead, the Treasury undertook to work with the GLA to look at innovative funding options for infrastructure projects. The previous government refused to do that with us. There are a variety of options for raising finance to support infrastructure and regeneration schemes. Officers from the GLA and TfL are working together to create and refine a list of all possible mechanisms that will enable us to invest in and enhance London's infrastructure. This will include, but not be limited to, land value capture options. Officers are also tasked with carrying out economic and viability appraisals on those options to move from a long list to a shorter and more focused set of mechanisms that we will discuss with the government. I'm also looking to see what can be learned from the best infrastructure financing schemes around the world, as well as setting out how innovative financing mechanisms enable the delivery of the Elizabeth Line and the Northern Line extension to Battersea Power Station. At the same time, officers are engaging with stakeholders across London and in government, making the case for London to capture its fair share of the economic benefit that investment creates. Our ultimate goal is to create a set of mechanisms that help London take independent decisions about infrastructure spending and the delivery of major schemes, including through capturing value fairly from those who benefit from them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that response. And you mentioned the tax increment financing that was used for the Northern Line. And that, for me, I think, is a great example of innovative funding modules working really well. I mean, that project came in £160 million under budget. I mean, how often do we talk about transport projects coming in under budget in this country, and was fully self-funded? So I think, is there scope for that to be kind of a shelf model that we can use for other projects? I'm thinking about the West London Orbital, for example.
So he raises a really good point. We've got huge experience in London of helping to fund schemes of national significance. We also, by the way, helped fund the Elizabeth Line. We paid for 2/3 of it. The 1/3 paid for by the national taxpayers was for the bit that goes from Liverpool Street to Shenfield and from Paddington to Reading. So we paid for it ourselves in London. He mentioned the Northern Line extension. The huge revenues coming from the additional tax revenues raised because of the business community there. My criticism of the government is that there seems to be a lack of institutional memory in the Treasury. And I've been critical of the Treasury. To give credit to the Treasury, they've now said they'll work with us in terms of innovative financing, in terms of major infrastructure. The first piece of good news is in relation to the DLR extension, but he's right to remind me West London Orbital is unfinished business. The Baker Line extension south is unfinished business. We're having good conversations with the government on both those issues. And by the way, on West London Orbital, the councils in that area have been fantastic in also putting their hand in their pockets at limited finances they've got because they understand the benefits of a West London Orbital.
Yeah, and in terms of your comments on the Treasury, I think it's worth noting just how normal these powers are to have in other countries. I mean, mayors in France, for instance, of cities much, much smaller than this one have that independence to be able to capture the land and set their own transport priorities and enact them without having to go cap in hand to government in the way that, unfortunately, mayors do here. Business London have also advocated for a residential tax increment finance model where you look at, for instance, trying to capture the stamp duty, which is unlocked from the new housing that the transport infrastructure investment unlocks. Is that something we could potentially look at? And I think potentially with the Bakerloo line, it's something which could raise quite a lot of revenue.
Yeah, I'm keen to explore with the government, and they've been receptive, which is unlike the Treasury, in relation to a number of additional revenue streams in terms of infrastructure expenditure. The Northern Line extension was future proceeds of business rates. What about future proceeds of stamp duty we otherwise wouldn't get, but for the new homes we're building? Now, I don't want to take away from the receipts that we need for providing public services. So I'm not suggesting existing residents or existing businesses are paying towards these extensions, although on the Elizabeth Line they did with their business rate supplement bill. And we also want to make sure that there's viability for councils to use council tax receipts to provide public services. So those are the conversations we're having with the government. They've been receptive in terms of both BLE and WLO, and so fingers crossed we get agreement with the DLR Thamesmead this spring, and then we go forward with plans for West London Orbital and Baker Line extension.
Yeah, it's really positive, Mr. Mayor, and I think it's just worth reiterating how common and normal this is in other countries around the world. Thank you, Chair.
The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Cooper, and it's about local power plans and community energy.
Can I thank the member for her question? Community energy is absolutely central to London's transition to a cleaner, fairer, more resilient energy system, and I'm proud that we're now seeing the largest public investment in community energy in this country's history through the government's local power plan. The Secretary of State for energy security and net zero deserves massive credit for this pioneering and transformative programme. My local community energy fund is already in its 8th round and has so far offered funding to 194 projects across 65 community groups. The 8th round will provide more than £630,000 to help community groups deliver new energy projects across our city. This will include funding for community groups to help them build capacity and to support more organisations in bidding for any future funding. We're also considering what further City Hall support could look like for the community energy sector in the future, and we'll be closely working with the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero on the development of the local power plan. We're also strengthening wider partnerships. That's why we've signed a memorandum of understanding with GB Energy that will enable us to work together on community energy, share information, and help community groups in London access the funding and expertise they need. My team's also been working closely with London councils to publish practical toolkits and help boroughs partner effectively with community energy groups. And through the Zero Carbon Accelerator, we've identified 330 sites across London that could be suitable for community-owned solar projects, a major pipeline of opportunity for local groups. And just to reassure the member, because she's followed this with interest, the Community Energy Task Force will be reporting back in summer 2026 with recommendations on what more can be done to support the sector and remove barriers.
Well, thanks very much, Mr Mayor, and it's great to see that finally at national level we're on round 8 of the Community Energy Fund in London, and the government is following in our footsteps here, because unfortunately the Urban Community Energy Fund and the Rural Community Energy Fund were cancelled in previous years, and it's now all being revived. Do you have a date for confirming to applicants to the most recent round of the London Community Energy Fund when they are going to hear the outcome of the bids?
So the decision is imminent, but because of the elections coming up, we get into pre-election period. So I suspect it'll have to be after the elections. I'd suggest towards the end of May.
OK, because if it's not today or tomorrow, it's going to have to be after the 7th of May.
Yeah.
So will we expect that at some point in May then? If
yeah, just explain to those watching this thing and what this is about. Basically, in the weeks preceding the council elections, we aren't allowed to make certain announcements, and so that's all it is. And so I'd be very unhappy if it wasn't in May.
And I presume that there is going to be a schedule for us to have future rounds of the London Community Energy Fund, and you're talking about us having signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with GB Energy. So are we going to be trying to bring together the London Community Energy Fund together with the work of government so that we can maximise resources coming into London?
Spot on. I mean, she mentioned the great news about the government catching up. There's a change in government. That's why this government's realised how important this is. I think potentially this is massive for us, because at the moment we've been using our finite resources to support community energy. Now we've got the resources of the government in terms of not just GB Energy, but also the announcement made in terms of the local power plan. And I think this is so exciting for this whole area. And the good thing about, because we've got, I think if you like, first mover advantage, we can get going very quickly, and I'm not being critical, rather than other regions in the country who are going to be playing catch-up with what we're doing and stuff. So I'm hoping we can persuade the government, the department, led by the excellent Secretary of State and his team, to make really good progress in terms of getting the money out the door from the government and getting community energy flowing through communities in our city.
Well, I think Community Energy London are looking forward to continuing the partnership with the GLA on this, and I know that Community Energy England and lots of people in community energy groups are very excited about the launch of the £1 billion and the local power plan. Thank you very much, Chair.
OK.
I'm committed to protecting and strengthening neighbourhood policing, which is why my budget confirmed a record-breaking £1.26 billion investment from City Hall in policing and crime prevention measures, and I'm grateful for the member asking the question. This funding will ensure that Met can continue to make the improvements needed to bear down on crime and keep Londoners safe. It's also extremely important to keep people safe on roads and transport. TfL and the Met collaborate to make London safer for everyone. Community crime funding is one of the central pillars of the Commissioner's new Met for London plan. In line with this plan, the Met are making some difficult operational decisions to put more resources in places to build the strongest ever neighbourhood policing. This involves reviewing services the Met have previously supported, which are not core crime-fighting functions. In addition, negotiations have been ongoing between the Met and TfL to renew the Special Services Agreement, which provides for road and transport policing. In line with the Met Commissioner's desire to focus on core policing issues, some of the services provided under this agreement have been withdrawn by the Met, including red route enforcement, which is a non-core activity for the police. As such, the Met has made the decision that approximately 60 PCSOs who have been delivering this service are currently subject to a transfer of undertakings, 2P, procedure. This is an operational decision and the sole responsibility of the Met. On boosting neighbourhood policing specifically, the Met has now placed borough superintendents in each borough, and there are at least 2 dedicated ward officers and 1 PCSO in every London ward. This should result in a better understanding of local priorities and closer working with communities to tackle issues such as antisocial behaviour and neighbourhood crime. These officers have been protected and other officers have been redeployed for more specialist teams to support frontline delivery. After years of underfunding, this government's neighbourhood policing guarantee will see £45.6 million awarded to the Met. This will help boost neighbourhood police officer numbers with the addition of my support from City Hall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've been contacted as Assembly members by members of the 63 red route enforcement officers. They claim that 90% of their duties consist of high visibility patrols and crime reduction, and red routing ticketing takes only 30 minutes of their day each day. Would you take another look at this? Because we are risking losing very experienced, much valued PCSOs who do not just do red route enforcement in their areas.
I think the issue the members raised raises a number of additional issues. If that is the case, and I don't know if that is the case, then TfL have been paying for a service they're not receiving. Because TfL have entered into a special services agreement with the MPS to provide a service to enforce the red route. The Met Police are saying they want to focus on core policing functions, and so TfL are saying not unreasonably, well, we don't want to pay for that. We want to pay for the red route being enforced, which is why we've got this 2P in relation to this service being provided. So I'll take away the point made by the member in relation to what the PCSOs were doing. What they're paid to do by TfL is clearly to enforce the red route.
Yeah, what we've heard is that somebody had an over 20 years career within the Metropolitan Police that they'd like to continue rather than being tupered out to a private sector parking enforcement agency. In preparation for Mayor's question time, I saw a briefing from the Met Police Service. What they say, and I'll have to take this away, is the PCSOs, but I'm not suggesting that the people have lied to you, by the way. No. The PCSOs have been recruited and trained for traffic enforcement, and so I'll have to take that away because what you're saying is what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Is also in the name of Assembly Member Roberts on Havering referendum.
I note the time, so I'll forego my answer to allow now supplementary questions.
Do you think, Mr Mayor, assuming that you're not in favour of the referendum, do you think that residents in Havering would prefer that their council tax money is spent on frontline services rather than a pipe dream and vanity project being proposed by the MP for Romford?
Well, the current MP for Romford, he's referring to. I think the question he's got to answer is, how does he replace the services that residents are currently receiving? We know Havering has a larger than normal older population. What's he going to do about the Freedom Pass those residents will lose out on? The 4 tube stations that his residents benefit from, what will replace those, the 3 London Overground stations, the 36 bus routes, the bus stops? What about the 1,500 police officers and PCSOs? How does he intend to fund those? Or the firefighters? Or the 10,900 children receiving universal free school meals because of the GLA support? Or the £120 million funding given to affordable homes? I think we should be asking for a refund. But this MP has form. The promises he made with Brexit haven't materialised, and it's been a catastrophic disaster.
Final question, Mr Mayor. I understand that the rigorous vetting procedures of reform has led to them phoning up even sitting Liberal Democrat councillors asking if they would like to be candidates in the forthcoming elections. Have you been approached by reform to be a candidate in the forthcoming elections?
Chair, the advice I'd give to Lib Dems approached by reform is the advice I give to all young children: never talk to strangers.
Okay.
Thank
At that point, the Lib Dems are out of time. We've one last Assembly Member Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Mayor, in the tradition of celebrating London and Londoners, as you probably know, today is the 55th anniversary of the independence of Bangladesh, a proud heritage that I own. Would you like to take a moment to say something?
Can I just although celebrating today, I know the path to independence was a difficult one. I know lives were lost. I know atrocities were committed. But it's really important to celebrate the progress made since 1971. In recent years, there's been turmoil in Bangladesh. I wish the newly elected leader the best going forward. We've got a population in London who are proud Londoners, proudly British, but of Bengali heritage. Those celebrating today, I wish them the best of luck. It shows, by the way, the joys of our diverse community. I would gently say, I don't suggest by you saying this, you're seeking to dominate proceedings today. I don't suggest you're trying to take over. I'm unsure why those who say that are so insecure about their own background and their own identity that they're nervous about celebrating others.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, so at this point, can I thank you, Mayor, for your answers? We're now moving to Part B. Can I ask the Assembly to agree the motion which is set out on the agenda in my name, which is that the Assembly notes the answers to the questions asked? I now want to move to item 6, which is petitions. Can I ask the Assembly to agree that Standing Order 3.20 relating to the receipt of petitions at Mayor's question time be suspended for the duration of the meeting to allow the petition listed in the reports to be received? Can I ask Assembly Member Boff to present the petitions listed on the agenda in his name?
Do you want to deal with that, Chair? I suggest a warning or leave.
Can I just ask the member in the audience to refrain from interrupting the meeting, or I need to ask you to leave?
She's now threatening violence, Chair. Can we ask for removal?
You're now threatening violence. I'm going to ask for you to be removed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's now move back to our main business. I think I completed the notes that I had to say, so I'm going to now ask Assembly Member Boff to say a few words.
Thank you. The Thames View playing fields and the Ripple Greenway has had an essential role, not just as a recreational area, but as a green space which has expanded to include the Ripple Greenway. However, due to neglect, this is threatened by potential development. The Mayor of London has refused to rule out building on parks in London, and so we risk losing an irreplaceable asset to our community. As our city expands and urban sprawl continues, preserving such green spaces has become even more critical. In the London plan, metropolitan open land is specifically designated to protect open spaces within urban environments. By designating the Thames View playing fields and the Ripple Greenway as metropolitan open land, we can ensure that it is preserved for future generations. We call on the Council to prepare a detailed assessment of the Thames View playing fields and Ripple Greenway, highlighting the ecological, recreational and social value, including any data from environmental surveys and community testimonies. Strong evidence supporting the vital role this land plays will strengthen the case for preservation. And we further call on the Mayor for London to include Thames View playing fields and Ripple Greenway as metropolitan open land.
Okay, thank you for that. Can we refer there is a report on the agenda about the delegation to me to deal with urgent business. That delegation is in conjunction with the 5 group leaders during the pre-election period. Can we agree to that, please, on item 7 on delegation of authority?
Agreed.
Yep. Okay, date of next meeting. The next scheduled meeting of the London Assembly will be the Assembly's annual meeting, which will take place at 11 a.m. on the 11th of May, Monday the 11th of May, in the chamber at City Hall. Okay, we have any other business the Chair considers urgent. Now, sadly or rightly, you might say, I have received notification of an urgent motion. There is nothing in that motion that can be ruled out, and therefore I'm allowing it to proceed. Now, in our process, we allow for the member to speak for 1 minute to persuade the Assembly of why it's urgent. Can I just ask you, in the back of your minds, if it is not agreed to go forward as an urgent motion, that you allow under that delegated policy that you've just agreed for the 5 group leaders to get together with the mover of the proposal, who happens to be a group leader, to see if we can move the business during this delegated period of time. So if it's not taken today, it still could go forward in some form with the motion. So we will do some business on it. So I give that commitment if this motion fails in this meeting at the moment. Can I ask Assembly Member Wilson to speak for 1 minute in support of this urgent motion?
Thank you, Chair. I won't need to speak for the whole minute at this point, but just to suffice to say that I appreciate it's slightly unorthodox for motions to be considered MQT rather than plenary, but the reason I think this is an urgent motion and should be considered urgently today is because the news only broke last night regarding this doctor strike, and we do not have a suitable plenary meeting between now and the date at which that strike is scheduled to take place. That's why I think it's important for us to discuss it, take a view on it now, and I'm in colleagues' hands as to whether they agree. Thank you.
Okay, so without debate, but I think I can just remind members that if this motion is not passed by the Assembly, there is an opportunity that we can deal with it through the process that I've outlined in some form or another. Right, so we have to move to the vote in. Is that?
Yes, please, Chair. So can we now see votes in favour of basically proceeding to debate and considering the motion? So votes in favour of considering the motion. I'm going to start at this end. 1, 2 in favour, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 votes in favour of considering. Can I see those votes against, please? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes against. That falls, and I believe the Chair has indicated that perhaps the Assembly will explore dealing with that.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is talk to the proposer of the motion and the 5 group leaders. We can do it originally by email, that we treat this urgently and see if we can come together to find a way forward to deal with this issue outside on the delegated authority that we will take it forward. Okay. Right, there being no any other business...
Chair, sorry, can I propose a vote of thanks for your chairmanship over the past year? I think you've done an excellent job.
Thank you very much.
And I want to hear from some of the opposition.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Can we have a vote on whether we vote on that?
Thank you very much for that. There being no any other business, let's close this meeting. I wish you well in certain factors in the coming weeks, and of course I want you to be miserable by a certain date if you're not a member of my group. Okay, I wish you well. Thank you.
Well, there you go. That got quite interesting in the first half. I want to thank everyone for watching all this time. The new subscribers, new members, welcome along.